Verena. Wise Verena. The goddess of justice, knowledge and learning, science and law. She's the wife to Dark Moor and the mother to Verena and Shallya. Usually she is depicted as a tall, classy woman, carrying a sword and a set of scales. Her concerns are those of justice and fairness, not the letter of the law, and in accordance she opposes tyranny and oppression just as much as crime. As Verena highly values those aspects, her church has a much more positive, even favorable outlook on magic compared to most other religions within the empire. Her worship is spread through the old world, especially towards the south, where Vermintide is also mainly worshipped. Those that follow her usually fall into the categories of scholars, lawyers and magistrates, as well as some wizards. To be more precise, those of the Grey, Celestial, and the Light Order. There is no rigid hierarchy within her cult. The head of the cult is Verena herself, and no mortal intermediaries needed. Because the truth, according to her followers, is self-evident and requires no interpretation. Priests of the Order of Lawkeepers, one of her primary orders, are tasked to preserve knowledge and bring it to everyone else. Their duties are to keep voluminous correspondence with each other, exchanging information and news, which is very fitting for the Grey Order indeed. A little excursion. The Grey Order is a college of magic dedicating itself towards illusion and disguise, and are considered magical spies. Hence the connection between the Grey Order and Verena. The Order of Light dedicates itself towards fighting chaos itself, and wisdom and knowledge are required to effectively combat the arch-enemy of all. The Celestial Order tasks itself with reading the stars and divining portents from doing so. The other orders are called the Order of Scalebearers, the Order of Mysteries, and the Order of Everlasting Light. A special mention goes to the Order of Scalebearers, who are heavily sought after as judges, arbitrators, and moderators, because of their dedication towards impartiality, as well as their profound mastery of law. The Order of Mysteries is much smaller in members and less known, but here one can find the warrior priests of Verena, seeking knowledge wherever it may be found. The last order to talk about is the Order of the Everlasting Light, consisting of devout Templars famed for their skill at arms, their sense of justice and legendary bad luck. Last but not least, if you ever find the need to identify a follower of Verena, her cultists usually wear plain white robes, simply to symbolize pure truth and impartiality. Though it should be noted that she will not allow to be made a fool. If one commits crime and uses the cult of Ranald, a god she is strongly opposed to, as an excuse, she will grant no mercy. Her temples can usually be found in most cities or larger towns, for the most part situated in the more wealthy districts, such as administrative or university quarters. In many cases, libraries and courthouses include shrines to this goddess, and smaller shrines can be located in the homes of many a scholar and lawyer. The symbols associated with her are, unsurprisingly, the scale, and then owls and a downward pointing sword. But more exists, since she is the Warhammer version of Justitia, the blind goddess of law and justice, and a female bust with a blindfold around the eyes is also not uncommon. Within the temples, one can find a large statue dedicated to Verena, depicting her seated, a book in her lap, a pair of scales in her left hand, and her right hand resting on the hilt of a sword. Unsurprisingly, within the hallowed halls of those temples, one can find libraries, and each temple has at least one meeting room for discussions and negotiations to take place under the watchful eyes of Verena. Her strictures are as follows. 1. Never refuse to arbitrate a dispute when asked. 2. Always tell the truth without fear or favor. 3. Protect knowledge at all costs. 4. Combat must be a last resort when all alternative routes are fruitless. And last but not least, 5. Never become a tool of injustice or heresy. Quite fitting, and very moderate, I have to say. Not as strict and blind to the letter of the law, but also not strongly idealistic, even though the wording of her strictures might suggest so. But let's not forget her penances, because they exist as well. And if a cultist of Verena does wrong, he might find himself on a quest to fulfill his penance. Those usually include the recovery or the preservation of knowledge, or the righting of an injustice, or the resolution of a dispute. They might also be sent to recover a long-lost trove of information, like a forgotten book of lore. All in all, her penances seem definitely much easier to successfully complete than those of most other gods we have discussed so far. The ability linked to her is a little esoteric when it comes to connecting her aspects with it, but we can take a mixed approach. The idea being that if someone uses his ability, it is only fair that others come a little closer to using theirs as well. Hey there. Matt here. Unscripted. I just realized I made a little mistake. Did a little oopsie. A little fucky-wucky. I mixed up the ability of Verena with that of Jokas. Thinking it's the ability where if you use your ultimate ability, someone else gets 10% back. That's, that was my mistake. Though my conclusion would change on that ability as to why it is connected to Verena, I would say that in essence it makes the game more fair, if you will, because you're up against a lot of enemies while you always have to wait, let's say, like 1.5 minutes for your ability to cool down on the longer ones, so getting 10% back immediately is amazing. And it fits the idea of we'll make it fair because I'll make it fair for you because I oppose tyranny, I oppose oppression. That would be my conclusion for Verena's ability. Sorry for that little intermission. I realized that I mixed that up the moment I hit that point in the audio. Like a smooth brain, I just read off from my script and didn't think about looking at that ability, so sorry for that. Resume watching. For the next part, we shall take a look at a goddess that has already been mentioned a few times within this series. A goddess for which we already have a trait in the base game, and for whom we've already seen a map. Three things are connected to Shallya in this game. The Hand of Shallya, a trait we can use in the base game, as well as the Miracle of Shallya, a miracle purchasable at a Shrine of Harmony and Shallya's Rejuvenation, a very potent version of Natural Bond that, in addition to healing more, also allows us to heal with healing items without converting the health gained from those items into temporary health. Well, technically, there's also a fourth thing connected to her. A map. Shallya's Hospice. Or Convocation of Decay. But what is the fuss about Shallya? Let's take a look. Shallya, the white dove of mercy. She is considered the goddess of mercy as her primary aspect, but also that of healing and compassion. She is the daughter of fair and wise Verena and dark Moor, as well as the sister to Myrmidia. She is depicted as a beautiful maiden, her eyes perpetually welling with tears as she weeps for the pain of all that live. It is even said that her compassion knows no bounds, and in some stories she seems to trust those around her to the point of foolishness. It is even said that Ranald was able to trick her to gain access to godhood, once a mortal. Naive indeed, when a deceitful mortal can trick a goddess into granting one apotheosis. Who knows if Sinch had his fingers somewhere in there as well. She was also tricked by Manan, who trapped her at the bottom of the sea. Yet still, her cultists claim her mercy is available to all, no strings attached, no judgment. True foolishness lies in presuming who is worthy of her grace and who isn't. Those that are brought to the brink of despair are those that seek her out. Those that are confined to a prison or sickbed. Those that are condemned to death or who are dying on and off the battlefield. Her priestesses and priests. For a few men do indeed serve her as well, bring peace and forgiveness, and a promise of a better life in the one that comes when the veil shifts and the curtains close. Most of her worshippers are healers and physicians, but many of those that are dedicated to her work to alleviate the suffering of others in general. Charitable souls who care for the poor, workers in orphanages, asylums and refuges. Even the brave one that decide to go on search and rescue missions for the lost and missing on behalf of their loved ones. Their temples double as hospitals for those that are simply too poor to afford a physician, and their devout followers give food to those too poor to feed themselves, to the point of starving themselves, in the name of the Lady in White. The cult itself is ruled by the Order of the Bleeding Heart, which maintains all temples, hospices, mercy houses, and many other holy sites. The small order of the Chalice is tasked with cleansing the Fly Lord's influence, opposing the worst of diseases and plagues. The symbols associated with her are, unsurprisingly, white dove, keys, and a heart with a drop of blood, symbolizing her relentless mercy and sympathy, even in the face of suffering herself. The High Temple of the Lady in White is built in Bretonia, over the location of a famous healing spring. It is claimed that the waters were once poured there from the same chalice Shallya used to grant Ranald godhood, which they claim is the holy grail of the Lady. Whatever the truth may be, it is a popular destination for pilgrims. However, her pilgrims take the form of the diseased and injured, seeking alleviation from their suffering. Sometimes she sends her devotees portents and omens to lend a more direct approach in healing the wounds of the downtrodden, even though sometimes they might not be clear. In the end, it does not make a difference if your leg is broken or your heart. In her eyes, both are equally deserving of attention, for the healed leg might allow the man to protect his family from looming danger, and the healed heart might have prevented the woman from the pits of despair, from which she might have come out changed with a murderous intent where her heart once was. Her penances are everlasting, as a devotee of Shallya experiences no difference between their duties and their penance. However, she still has strictures a cultist needs to follow. 1. Always render assistance without judgment based only in a person's need. 2. Never kill except in self-defense or when facing the followers of the Fly Lord. 3. Hunt down servants of the Fly Lord, wherever they may fester. 4. Shallya's work is never done, so turn not to self-indulgence. 5. Never take up arms. A walking stick and courage will suffice. From all the Empire gods, and as someone who absolutely loves to play healers and support characters, she might be my favorite. And on the side of the Chaos gods, her opposite, Nurgle. Usually here I would give a very short conclusion as to why the ability might fit, or might not fit, but I think This case is clear-cut, and all is said and done. I wish you a wonderful day. Thank you for watching.